Hi, welcome to the Quilters Guild of Ireland Home Project. This is a project which we are running with support from the Keep Well in Your Community project and the Design and Crafts Council of Ireland. We are asking our members and friends of members and acquaintances of members and relations and neighbors and anyone who would like to make one or two or three or however many they'd like patchwork blocks made from batiks, preferably. If you don't have batiks, please don't use that as an excuse not to take part. But these blocks are all kind of related to home, so they're either a house, a tree, or a path and garden, we're calling it. And we're providing 9 patterns. You are welcome to use these patterns. They all make a 10-inch finished block, and but you are also welcome to ad-lib and make your own design if you'd like. So these videos are just to walk through the construction of the 9 patterns that I've designed. So this is a second to the blocks, and this is a tree. And it's a very simple, very graphic kind of tree shape. And I'd like to think maybe a little bit Seussian, but maybe not. Maybe it's too square for Seuss. But I have my instruction sheet next to me, which is right here. And I have the pieces all cut out and laid out so I know what I'm sewing. So I'm first going to sew together these 3, then I'm going to sew together those 3, and then I'll put the two pieces together. So I'm just going to set those aside for the moment. And by laying them out like that, I have a very clear picture of where I'm going and what I have to do. The shapes can be a little bit similar in width and height, and if you don't lay them out, it's easy enough to get them confused. So I'll start with sewing this tree trunk to the sky or the background. And your trunks and your skies and your trees don't have to be the color of real trees and things you find in nature. You can go as weird and wacky as you like. Now, because I'm sewing here on camera, I'm going to just very quickly press that very gently with my fingernail, and that's ready to go. And then I will add the other side. Line up the pieces, and you can see I sew a couple of stitches and then I make sure everything lines up, and I continue on down. This little piece of fabric that I sew on at the end of all my seams kind of keeps the threads tidy, and I like to think it saves me a bit of thread as well, and which appeals to my slightly stingy heart. So that is the tree trunk and the sky sewn together. So I'll set that aside. And now I've got the tree itself and the sky. And again, I'm going to line those up, make sure they fit together. And I'll then sew those seams. So I'm using just a bog standard sewing machine, nothing special. This particular one, I suppose it looks a little bit different than some you would see because it only does a straight stitch. So I think of it as a workhorse, but it uses a standard sewing machine needle, which in this case I'm using a size 75 needle, and I'm using Aurifil 50 weight thread, which is my personal favorite, but feel free to use whatever you like. I know others prefer Mettler or Gutermann or Superior, I suppose, comes to mind. Can't think of any others off the top of my head, but use whatever suits you, and just make sure that you're happy with its stitch quality. So again, I'm going to finger press this. I'm opting to press my seams under the tree, which kind of will make the tree pop out a little bit. Don't have to do that. I know there's a degree of obsessiveness and worrying about how your seam allowances are pressed, but it is something you can think about. And I should have actually pinned this. So I'm going to line up my bottom edge, and I'm going to hold that, and then line up the seam allowance, and sew. And again, make sure everything is lined up, and sew a bit, and again, make sure everything is lined up, and sew. So there's my tree, all done. And I'm going to again show you the tip which I showed in the first video, which is it's no harm in doing a little stay stitch all the way around this to make sure nothing gets pulled apart as it's handled. But before I do that, I'm going to press it, because if you do a stay stitch before you press it, you could press a pleat into it or a little tuck or something that's not quite matched up. So by pressing it, I'm just going to make sure that everything is as I want it to be. So I'll be right back. So there it is finished. As I said, I'm going to do a little stay stitch, which I did on the last video as well, and I'll probably do on every video. If you don't want to watch me doing a stay stitch, then just to remind you that when you finish your block, contact the QGI at gmail.com, or go to the Quilters Guild of Ireland at Facebook or on Facebook and get in touch and let them know you've got a block ready, and they'll tell you where to post it. Alternatively, if you know a member, contact the member and they'll tell you where to post it, or you can post it to that member. So good luck and thank you for taking part. And here's a little stay stitch. So I'm going to sew about an eighth, maybe a little bit less than an eighth in. I'm going to stop very briefly because I want to get rid of this little tab. Now obviously when I've got very little piecing as I do on this block, this possibly isn't necessary, but if you're not sewing with a very small seam, it's really easy for the ends of the seams to come apart. And this just saves a bit of work for whoever's putting together the quilt top. And just to note, I'm not pushing this through at all. I'm just letting it feed itself very gently. I don't want to create any tension. I don't want to distort anything. Just let it feed through. And I'll get that little tab of fabric back. And that's it. And that's my block ready to go. So good luck with your sewing. And if you have any questions or problems, contact us at the QGI at gmail.com. Thanks a million. Bye.